Welcome back to another YouTube Tuesday. My name is Derek, and last Tuesday we covered a channel called Joey Does Repair, and he responded in the comments saying, "Hey, that's me. Thank you for having a watch. I appreciate it. This specific video is probably one of the hardest watches on my channel, purely because of how many times I said the word chat from the live stream. I think it upset a lot of people. I've never watched someone watch one of my videos before, so this was awesome to see this perspective. That's the main goal of my Tuesday videos, is to bring to light channels that have put in the work so that everybody has a chance to see them and grow their own knowledge base of repairs." At Dan V3I came back again for another comment, saying, "I own a repair shop and I get all of my supplies from Mobile Centrics. Only when they're out of a particular part do I order from somewhere else. I love that you do these videos and tutorials. Thanks again for showing Joey Does Tech." Another person I would recommend to check out is ToltecMerc. If anyone is interested in doing PlayStation 5 repairs, he is the person to watch. He's guided me through several repairs myself. Check him out. So that's what we'll do today. Let's get into the video. Alright, looking up ToltecMerc, I hope that's how you say it, we see that he has over 12,000 subscribers, has published 177 videos, with a combined well over 1 million views here in the United States. And scrolling through his videos, you could definitely tell that his main focus seems to be console repair. In particular, I'm seeing a lot of PlayStation 5 and let's see, some PlayStation 4. You can see here that his most recent video a couple weeks ago was his 167th repair of a PS5, which means there's a lot of content out there if you're ever struggling to figure out why a PS5 isn't working. It seems like he's going to have the solution. Looks like his content ranges in time from under 10 minutes to over an hour, so he's most likely extremely thorough. And it looks like each one of these videos seems to be a slightly different problem. And I could already tell just looking at the way he has his setup. He's got his multimeter out always, power supply. You can definitely tell that he has the right setup looking at his different videos. So without further ado, let's get into one. Looks like this one's titled number 46, Repair of a PS5 with No Power. So let's take a look and see what he comes up with.
Hello and welcome. It is time to try to fix something once again. And today, as you can see, I'm going to try my hand at fixing a PS5. Now this is the digital version. So no Blu-ray drive. This one, looking up in those vents, is pretty dirty. So maybe she has been taken apart. But it's supposed to be, it doesn't do anything. So let's go ahead and give that a try. And I thought I heard a pop there, like there's a little bit of standby power or something. It's supposed to be, I'm looking for the eject button. There's no Blu-ray, so there's no eject button. Ah, no power. Pretty dead. I don't suppose I'm going to be lucky enough for this just to be a dead supply, am I? That would be very lucky indeed. So I guess I need to get these covers off and see if we've got plus 12, which should be there all the time.
What he means by plus 12 is basically the output of the power supply putting out those 12 volts. And that'll help you determine whether or not it is just a power supply or it's going to be a deeper issue on the motherboard.
This is not in quite as good a shape as the last one I worked on, which was the first one I had ever worked on. Maybe she'll clean it up pretty good, but let's make it work first. Let me get these covers off and see if we got 12 volts or not. Okay, possibly from the home of a smoker, maybe. Pretty darn dirty. Oh, and I just noticed, yeah, looks like the security tape is still there. None of the screws are missing that I can tell, so this one may not have been opened yet. That would be nice. Well, I've got it down to the circuit board and the power supply, and well, it's not going to be a simple one. It looks like our power supply is good. We're getting a solid 12 volts out, so that means our problem is going to be here, somewhere on this large motherboard. So I need to get it inside of the workbench so I can maybe see a little bit better. We are inside at the workbench, and I'm just beginning to take a look at this thing, and I've got my bench power supply hooked up here to the terminals on the board. And I want to show you the current draw, which is the only piece of information I have right now. If I turn this on, 19 milliamps at most and 5 or 6 milliamps holding, which I think it should do more like 30 milliamps. So whatever that means. But obviously she's not starting up as normal.
Typically you'd see it spike a little bit more than that, going up into 100 or 200, and kind of teetering off, but it depends on what it's doing at the time that you plug it in. So it's either going to be a short on the motherboard somewhere, some cap, something like that, or potentially an integrated circuit of some kind. This is my first time watching this video with you guys, so let's see if we can kind of walk through his thought process and maybe even try to figure it out with him.
Well, I've been doing a little bit of hunting around the board here, and let me show you what I've been looking at. Get my microscope to recording. We're going to be looking right in this area, right above where it says F7003, right in there. So that's where we're going to be looking. Let me switch to the microscope view. I'll show you what I've been looking at. Of course, the current draw was not right on this thing, which is not surprising, I guess, since it doesn't work. Oops. Trying to get everything set up. Not enough room. Never enough room. Okay. I'm in diode mode with my multimeter, and I'm looking at this chip, which is, I can't remember what this chip is. I have to clean it off and look, but it's obviously some kind of DC-DC converter. That's what I was just doing, is looking around the board for any of these. You know, when you see these big inductors, these large capacitors, that's obviously some sort of a digital, DC to DC converter, some kind. And I was looking around it, for shorts. That's ground. That's normal. Nothing obvious. I think it's ground right there. But over here, right about here, that is very, very low. That looks like a short. What is that, 0.016? But I have no idea where that goes. I have no idea if this is shorted or if where this goes is shorted. I don't know. Don't know enough about these things yet to know. But I decided, since I've got a short, and just looking at in the past at the PS4s, whenever there was a short on some of these PMICs, DC-DC converters, they were not bad. It was something else shorting them. And then that's when I decided to take a look at the other side of the board. Well, this is the back of our old friend, the South Bridge. This is the opposite side of the board from the South Bridge. And in here, there's obviously, multiple voltages coming in. You can see these big inductors right here carrying in voltages. I don't know what they are. I don't know what they should be, but they should not be shorted to ground like this right here.
Typically, when it's an inductor, one of these capacitors here, that is shorted out, it's going to be very obvious, at least with the trained eye, because it's going to be discolored. I'm going to look for one, see if we figured that out, because if not, then it's possibly just the South Bridge has gone bad. They're kind of an expensive chip and a kind of annoying one to replace just because of the thermal mass on this board, but let's see if we can visually see an issue with any of the components that he's testing.
That's very, very shorted. That one's not, but that looks like an important one. I'm trying to make sure I'm in the picture. That is you can see a supply coming through a via here to this inductor, short. And that goes directly under that South Bridge. And I want to say there's some others under here that had a low resistance. Now this one over here will throw people off. You see that diode? That's going to be from the CMOS battery. Like if you put that meter on there and you get a negative reading, yeah, there's voltage there. So don't let that fool you. So that's coming from the CMOS battery, which is still on the board. So let's look at some of these other ones though. Nope, nope, nope. But over here, nope. Over here, here's some more inductors coming on this side. That's short. And that's that same reading we had over there on that, my first reading on that DC-DC converter. 0.0017. So that may be coming from that, I haven't tried to follow it. Anyway, I think we've got a shorted South Bridge.
Yeah, I think so as well. Nothing stands out. Now, one of the main issues with these devices is the lack of schematics. If there was a board view software that would allow you to kind of trace down the issues, it'd be so much easier to kind of have had somebody else done the work to, put out the values that you'd be getting. Schematics for the consoles, just like we have schematics for the iPhones. Oh man, that'd be a game changer, at least from my perspective, because having to troubleshoot manually, it requires some serious skill. Not only that, it requires common sense and also just experience.
Which apparently on the 5s is just as common as it was on the 4s. They just die. But when I see, this is 2 different DC inputs that measure shorted, one there and another one over here. And I don't think they're the same. If I put a probe here and over here, little difference in voltage there. So I'm not sure if they're the exact same or not. But anyway, let's take a look at this thing. I don't have the number of this South Bridge. What is this thing? A 61GG. I think we're going to need a 61GG. And I don't have one because I don't have a lot of parts for the 5 yet. But I'm going to get one on order because I'm pretty sure that's our culprit. That, how common it was in the 4s for those to cause a no power, no response of any kind issue. So let me get that on order. And that's about as far as I can go for now. We will continue this when that comes in. Be my first South Bridge swap out on a PS5. All right, well, where are we now? It has been 3 weeks since I worked on this board last. I had to order the South Bridge I did not have in stock. They have since arrived. I have 3 of them since they're about $33 each or something like that. So I think I'm going to probably end up using them pretty quickly. The South Bridge on these PS5 seems to be just as bad as they were on the PS4 before it. I had to refresh my memory a little bit, go back and look at the board, and I've marked a few capacitors here where the shorts were. You can see some black ink on there, and there's another one, a tiny one up in here somewhere. So just to remind myself what I had been doing. So we had what appears to be a shorted standby supply because of a shorted.
Tech tip, if you're ever going to be delayed in a repair, make sure you note down what you've done, because the amount of repairs that you do, at least from my experience, it can be very easy to forget the work that you've done, especially if you do a lot of the same device, if you're having to wait an extended period of time. So just some good advice there.
Southbridge. So I'm going to get my preheater set up on the bench here, which pretty much takes up my entire bench, and see if we can get this board heated up and get this Southbridge changed out.
So one of the things you notice here is he's going over it with some wick. He added some solder flux, and you'll notice it is a small section of wick. It's really, I highly recommend on a board that has a thermal mass like this to basically cut your wick down to a small amount. That way it's not sucking away heat into the rest of the braid. Makes so much easier for wicking, so you don't have to over wick, potentially removing some of the top coat, the green layer of the board, exposing traces and making a nightmare for you, because you're going to have to go and cover up the traces with the solder mask and use UV light and have to wait for that to cure and make sure it's not too tall and all that stuff. One thing that I would mention is something that you don't have to do necessarily, but something that you may want to do is whenever you get a component that is pre-balled, if you haven't used that component from that supplier before, reball it. Or maybe use it the first time and see how it goes, and if it doesn't go well, make sure you reball the rest. I like to use specific solders that are easier for me to work with, so it's hard to know what type of solder is going to come, if they're going to be factory, if they're going to be leaded, non-leaded, if they're going to be, even though the Southbridge is one where you're going to want to higher, you're not going to want to go down to like a 138 solder paste, but that's just too low of a temperature for this for that circuit. But you may want to adjust it, because it could be a 217 when working with a 183 is going to be much better. So let's see what he does from here. You can see there he just, after cleaning it, added a very thin layer of flux. It's crucial that you get a good coating of flux on each one of the pads, because the amount of heat you're going to put on the board would oxidize the solder that is kind of pre-tinned on top of them, making it so that the solder ball on the IC doesn't make that bond that it has. It'll be basically protected by that thin layer of oxidation. So, but you also want to make sure you go really thin, especially on these bigger ones, because with too much flux, you can float it and it'll be hard for it to want to stick down. And sorry if I sound really stuffy. I'm trying to get over a cold. So thanks for bearing with me.
Well, the Southbridge is on, and that took longer and took more heat than I was expecting. I guess I was expecting something similar to a PS4 board, and it was not. I normally flow with those on like a 320C, from above. It takes like 1 minute if I'm preheating the board. That did not cut it. I nudged that chip and it just slid right over. So I had to raise to 340, and it took a couple of minutes, it seemed like, before it ever would start settling into place. So, my very first one on a 5. Let's see if I can switch to the microscope view. And in the background, I'm sorry, you can hear my preheater trying to cool off back behind me. Makes a lot of noise, loud fans in that thing. On the microscope, you can see the capacitor I marked earlier.
So you can see there, he struggled putting it on. And that's one of the reasons why I mentioned reballing it with a solder that you're familiar with. Most likely there was a really high melting temperature solder that was on there from the factory. And although it can be kind of annoying to reball these bigger components, I hate feeling like I'm cooking a chip, like beyond like where it should get to. So that's my personal preference. Let me know in the comments below what you do.
That had the short across it. So let's see if we've done any good as far as clearing shorts. Got my meter in continuity mode, and I'll stick the red probe on ground. And what have we done? So 424 ohms, 425, let's call it. So our short is gone. And there's another one over here that was shorted right there, that little one. 425, it's the same supply, whatever that is. I measured her and it had a dead short between like here and, you know, this capacitor. So it's the same supply coming in two different places. So no surprise, the short is cleared on both of them. That's ground. And there's the supply side. Oh, let me get back in the picture. Yeah, 425 ohms. Okay. We've cleared our shorts. So maybe I need to get, let me get the 12 volt bench supply turned on. And let's just see if our standby supplies that were missing are there now. I think I'm ready to check the supply voltages now. I think I have not applied power to this board yet. I am very curious as to how much current we're going to draw over there. So I'm connected right here to the terminals, positive and negative, and I've got a lead for my probe on my ground probe. All right, let's just see. You know, before she do like just a few milliamps, you know, 9. I think it settled at 9. See what she does now. Ooh, 300. Actually, she went currently for a moment. That looked, I'm thinking, more promising. Let's see if I can look under the microscope. Let's see what that voltage happens to measure, if I can. I think I got this board turned the same way as it was. It was right up over here. Nothing there. That's 3.3. What is this? 3.3, 1.14. What is this coming in? 5 volts coming in down here. What is this? Nothing there. Because some of these are probably runtime voltages that are not there. 1.98. They're not there until it actually is turned on. 5 volts coming in there. Okay. So I'm thinking this is like a 1.8, maybe 1.5. It's not there at the moment, but I'm guessing this is not turned on. But that current draw on power up looked very promising. So I guess we go back out and put it in the chassis. Let's see what happens. We are out in the garage again. I have this PS5 assembled just enough to test, I think. We need this ribbon because the power button is on that. This ribbon, I'm not really sure if I need that one or not. It looks like it's USB ports, so I did connect it though. And this one's for the lights, I believe, goes around here. Yeah, for the LEDs, just so we can know. No fan. I have not bothered hooking up the Wi-Fi antennas. They're laying everywhere. And I have not connected power yet. But I do have HDMI hooked up because I am optimistic. Let's see what happens. All right, we have AC in. A moment of truth. Look at that. Come on. Blue light flashing. Nothing on the screen yet. Come on, do something. All right, we locked. Screen locked. All right. I think we're doing a storage recovery. That looks promising. I'm still not sure how long I can leave this thing on without the fan. Probably for a minute or so anyway. Since we're not playing a game or doing anything intensive. You just feel this heatsink. Yeah, she's very slightly warm. I missed it if it had a white light or not. There's a white light. All right. Well, I think we've had some success here. My first Southbridge replacement on a PS5. And I'm sure there's going to be more coming because they fail a lot. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Hope that was somewhat entertaining, educational. Something. If it was, please give me a thumbs up. And I will see you in the next repair, which may be another PS5. I do have another one coming. I'll see you then. So long for now.
All right. So there we go. I really liked that recommendation. And I'm sure that if I ever run into an issue with a PS5 that I haven't seen before, I'm going to be going to him to see if I can source a video that'll help me walk through, giving me a please bro situation where I'm able to hopefully find the exact issue amongst his many videos. Let me know in the comments below if there's a channel that you'd like to see featured as well. I thoroughly enjoy being led to channels that are full of gold like this. Thanks a ton for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow for another repair video.